Hey everybody, it is time to talk about the 2015 Big Ten season. But you know what? Why do it inside? It's springtime.
It's beautiful.
It's almost summertime. Let's go outside. And this is a recommendation to everybody. There's so much Big Ten to talk about, but go outside. Go down a slide. Take a nap on the lawn. You know what? Go get an ice cream cone.
Get more ice cream cones.
Get more ice cream
cones.
That just makes good sense. Ryan, what is your big story, though, the Big Ten season?
How can it not be Jim Harbaugh?
It has to be.
I mean, the coach that Michigan fans wanted more than anything in the whole world. It's the Christmas gift they've been hoping for years.
Yeah.
Their shiny new Nintendo 64 has come home.
The most Michigan of men.
Yeah, and has proven that he can build programs, develop quarterbacks, which is something Michigan desperately needs.
Yep.
I don't think the story is, Jim Harbaugh is going to come in and turn this into an 11-10 win team right away. But it is like, what are they going to look like by the end of the year? Are they going to be a team that, by November, you're like, I don't really want to play Michigan.
No, they're a team that's going to get better. My team is Ohio State. My big storyline is Ohio State. A shocker. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
They're returning so much from a championship run that was not expected, I don't think, last season, at least before the season.
Yeah.
Especially on defense. Outside of like Scooby Wright and maybe Miles Jack, they might have the best linebacker in the country, and Darren Lee. Joey Bosa's a top 5 pick pretty clearly. They just really didn't lose a ton in an offense.
Right.
They've got the quarterback situation, which should play itself. I'm assuming Cardale Jones out. And Zeke Elliott might be the best running back in the country. Everything is there. The intriguing part to me is we have 73 reasons why they'll do it again.
Right.
I'm very curious because it doesn't appear right now. The why not is maybe just laying in Tom Herman, the offensive coordinator.
It's that, and it's sort of having the target on your back this year.
Yeah, that's true.
Last year, Florida State and Oregon had that target all year, and Ohio State had the advantage of sort of flying relatively under the radar.
This is true. All right, to you, who is a riser? Who is a team last year that struggled that you feel like will put it together, at least to the point of maybe respectability or competition?
You know what? I will go out on a very weird limb and say Purdue.
Wow.
3-9 was not a great year for them, but it was better than the year before. And if you look at the numbers, they got better by about a touchdown on scoring defense. They got better by more than a touchdown on scoring offense.
Yeah.
They do that thing where, first year under Darrell Hazel, they got blown out all the time.
So
Last year, they're hanging more.
This could be a bridge to a successful...
don't cut that, please.
No? Okay.
Look, the improvement may just be that this is a 5-win team and still doesn't make a bowl game. But I think it will be a 5-win team that is in games close, is not, and it is not a team where you just say, Purdue's on the schedule, that's a win.
Right.
Write it down, that's a win.
Fair enough. My riser this year is Penn State, which seems like a weird thing to say, but they went 2-6 in the conference last year.
And they lost a lot of close games, too.
They lost close games to dumb teams that I think in year 2 of James Franklin and his coaching staff, Bob Shoop, that defense should be filthy with the return of Anthony Zettel, decided not to go to the draft, so their defensive line should be good. I expect Hackenberg to be a little bit more comfortable this year. Known quantities at receiver with Godwin and Deshaun Hamilton. And Akeel Lynch, by the end of the season, as bad as they were running the ball last year, which, make no mistake, they were abysmally bad.
Yeah.
He appears to be a very bright spot looking forward. The schedule actually works out pretty nicely for Penn State.
Yeah, it's pretty light easy. They've got Temple early, but other than that, it's not a lot to worry about.
I feel like they're going to get contributions from young players. I feel good about Penn State. They have things I like. What do you, in terms of falling from the top?
Yeah.
Perhaps a tumble from that tier 1 of the Big Ten.
So this is maybe more just because they have so much room to do it, but I would go with Wisconsin, just because 11 wins is going to be hard to replicate.
Yeah, and their schedule was so ideal last year.
When you lose one, maybe one of the best 2 running backs in the country, they lose one of their best offensive linemen to the draft. Don't do this.
Right?
Don't do this. We will stop doing these videos.
Okay, fine.
And, the coaching turnover, I like Paul Chryst pretty fine.
Right.
But he's also a guy who, at Pitt, they play really well against a tough team, and then they go out and lose to a MAC team that had no business hanging with them.
This is true.
They were so erratic, and it wasn't because they didn't have talent necessarily, it was because they just couldn't do that thing that Wisconsin has done so well in the past, where it's just they're a known quantity and it's a scary thing.
And there are playmakers, obviously, year over year. The running back thing doesn't ever seem to change, and I like what the backfield holds in store, but to count on Joel Stave for double-digit wins.
Yeah, not ideal.
I don't think it's there, especially with what they lost on defense.
Who are you going with for your follower?
I'm wearing this color.
Right. Yeah.
The only color, Michigan State, and I don't want them to fall.
Sure.
But it doesn't look like an ideal situation with Pat Narduzzi gone. Pretty much all of their offensive playmakers gone. Their best 2 receivers, Jeremy Langford. I like Connor Cook a whole lot. Defensively, there's still a lot to like. Trey Waynes on the outside, Curtis Drummond. Taiwan Jones, just talent that has been a bedrock for a defense, added with Pat Narduzzi, with the schedule with Oregon and Air Force at the beginning in the first 2 or 3 weeks. And then the back end of that schedule is loaded, especially on the road. I don't think it's going to be a bad year, but it could be like an 8-4 type step down to the second tier of the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right. What to you is a player, who is a player that you feel like under the radar? Because obviously when you think Big Ten right now, it's it's Zeke Elliott, it's Christian Hackenberg, it's all these
every
guys.
Ohio State quarterback.
It's every Ohio State quarterback. There are huge names across the conference, but right now, under the radar, who's a name we will know come October?
I'll go with Rutgers' Leonte Carew. I mean, this was a guy who had over 1,000 receiving yards last year. He was top 25 in that category. And, you know, he thought about going to the draft. He ultimately decided not to. I think that was a good decision because his talent is that he is so good at finding the holes in zone coverage.
Right.
He finds exactly where to go so that the quarterback can get him the ball really cleanly. He could definitely stand to improve his ability to actually catch the ball in tight coverage. His catch rate is
he's not the most explosive player, but he's a guy that it feels like you can count on.
Right.
Which Rutgers is not always the case.
Yeah, and I mean, they're going to have to bring in a new quarterback this year, and I think he could be the kind of safety valve who say, I don't understand why, they keep getting it. Why don't they cover him?
Yes.
Why don't they cover him? How come he keeps
somebody like when Eric Decker was at Minnesota, he's the only guy there, and he keeps making catches.
So,
absolutely.
I think he's fun.
Okay, my player that I think could break out, and there's a lot of circumstance involved, another receiver, Jordan Westerkamp at Nebraska.
Yeah.
An abysmal passing game in Lincoln last year. Obviously, it's a more pro-style system now with Mike Riley and Danny Langsdorf coming in. Westerkamp, when the ball was thrown anywhere near him, his catch radius is great. He's an incredible athlete. We saw the big plays against Michigan State during that furious comeback. He had very nice plays against USC. So against good competition, he is finding a way against good defensive backs. I think with the track record of Mike Riley and Danny Langsdorf developing star receivers, you look at Marcus Wheaton, Brandon Cooks, and James Rogers recently within that style of system, I think he could thrive if Tommy Armstrong and the quarterback stable in Lincoln is able.
Big if.
Those buildings are relatively the size of that if.
Okay,
so
fair.
I think that's the case there. What to you is a game? Obviously, this with the big caveat and asterisk that the Michigan-Ohio State matchup, just because of the coaches, is going to be so huge. But which game do you think is going to be sort of meaningful and something that you can already circle on the calendar?
I'm really looking forward to that Penn State-Ohio State game.
Yeah.
A game that was very close last year, very contentious last year. Thank you, referees.
God, and Penn State's defense did a fantastic job against that Ohio State offense.
And like you were saying, Penn State doesn't have this is Penn State's first big test of the season, and it comes fairly late. It's also Ohio State's 7th game in a row before getting a bye.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where I don't know if this is the defense you want to be playing when you're like, we've been doing this for a month and a half. We're tired. We're a little beat up. And this is a game where James Franklin, has it circled. It's like, I want to go out. I want to beat Ohio State.
They're already scouting this game. My game is on a sort of similar note, but early on in October, 2 new coaches, Wisconsin and Nebraska. They'll have a concept for what they have, Paul Chryst and Mike Riley. I don't think Paul Chryst is doing a whole lot to change what Wisconsin has been doing with Barry Alvarez sort of hovering. But at Nebraska, the shift to a more pro-style system, I'm very curious to see what these 2 coaches are able to get from their players after a month of so-so non-conference games outside of Wisconsin and Alabama to start the season. Very curious to see what happens in this game and how those teams sort of acclimate.
Especially because that division is so wide open.
Oh, it's completely open.
You could almost pick any team and say, I can make a case.
One of those teams could be like the Minnesota, where they're in it in late November to be in the conference championship game. So absolutely. All right. A friendly reminder, once again, go outside, enjoy life, enjoy outdoor things, just relax. Thank you to Ryan. Check out all things college football and Big Ten on SB Nation and Football Study Hall. See you soon.